They called her cursed before she could even speak. They said her birth brought death, not life. Her village turned its back, and her own mother wished she hadn't survived. But one day, the girl they abandoned came back wearing the judge's robe. Welcome to Struggling Stories, where pain turns into power, and silence becomes the loudest victory. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support real stories of resilience. In the heart of a small African town named No, where the red dust covered every road and gossip traveled faster than the wind, a little girl named Amara was born. Her mother died during childbirth, and from that day, people said she carried bad luck. Her father disappeared a few months later, leaving her in the care of her aging grandmother. Whenever Amara walked through the market, whispers followed. "That's the cursed child," they said. "Don't look at her eyes too long, or you'll fall sick." But even as a child, she learned to hold her head high. Her grandmother always told her, "Child, the world fears what it cannot understand." Amara grew up poor but fierce. Her clothes were torn, her feet bare, but her eyes, they carried fire. While other kids played, she sat under the old mango tree, reading torn pages she picked from the trash near the school. She didn't have books, but she had hunger, hunger to learn, hunger to rise. Every evening, when the sun dipped behind the hills, her grandmother would light a candle and whisper, "You were born for more than this, my child. Let them talk. You'll make them listen one day." Years passed, and Amara's curiosity grew sharper than her pain. She begged the village teacher to let her sit in the back of the classroom. The teacher agreed, but other children mocked her. "You don't belong here," they said. "You can't even pay for a pencil." Amara smiled and replied softly, "Maybe not now." She studied every night under that flickering candle until her eyes burned. The candle melted. The nights were long, but the dream never faded. When her grandmother passed away, Amara was just 12, alone, hungry, and heartbroken. She slept on the church steps for days. But fate had been watching. One evening, a local priest named Father Joseph found her there, shivering in the cold. He took her in, gave her food, and asked, "What do you want to become, child?" Without hesitation, she whispered, "A judge." The priest smiled. "Then you will be. But promise me one thing. Never let their cruelty become your excuse." Amara started attending school with the priest's help. She worked part-time cleaning the classrooms after hours just to stay enrolled. Still, the whispers followed her. When she topped her first exam, the villagers said it was luck. When she topped again, they said it was a lie. The world couldn't accept her success because it meant they were wrong. But Amara didn't argue. She simply kept walking. The same roads that once echoed with insults now echoed with her footsteps of purpose. Years rolled on. Amara earned a scholarship to study law in the city. For the first time, she left the dusty roads of Ndala and entered a world of tall buildings, sharp suits, and people who spoke English faster than she could understand. She felt lost at first, but she remembered her grandmother's voice. "You were born for more than this." So she studied harder, while others partied. She read case files. While others slept, she whispered her dreams to the night. The city wasn't kind. There were days she went hungry again. Some professors ignored her because of her accent. Some students laughed when she mispronounced words. But inside Amara, there was a voice that never went silent. A voice that said, "They called you cursed. Show them you're chosen." After years of struggle, she graduated top of her class. On graduation day, when she stood in her robe, she thought of her grandmother, of the candlelight, of the mango tree that had once been her classroom. Tears streamed down her face, not because she was sad, but because she had done the impossible. When she returned to Ndala years later, no one recognized her at first. The little barefoot girl was now a woman with confidence in her stride and strength in her eyes. The same people who once spat at her feet now cleared the way when she walked by. Some whispered, "Is that her, the cursed child?" And another voice answered, "No, that's Judge Amara." As she walked into the old village hall to speak to the children, she noticed a small girl hiding behind her mother, shy, scared, but curious. Amara knelt down, smiled, and said softly, "Don't ever believe what they call you. Believe what you see when you close your eyes." The girl smiled back, and Amara knew the curse had finally broken. Her story didn't start with privilege or power. It started with pain, but she turned that pain into purpose, and in the end, even destiny bowed before her courage. Years after returning to Ndala, Judge Amara had become a name that carried both respect and fear. Her courtroom was known for fairness, a place where even the powerful hesitated to lie. Every day, she watched people walk in with their pain, their guilt, their pride. She listened, judged, and delivered justice with calm precision. But deep down, she knew life was waiting to test her again. One humid morning, her clerk entered her chamber, holding a case file. "Ma'am, this one's complicated," he said softly. "It involves an old villager accused of fraud and land theft." Amara nodded and opened the file casually. But as her eyes reached the accused's name, her heart froze. It was Kofi, the man who had called her cursed since she was a child. The same man who had spread the rumors that destroyed her mother's reputation. Time seemed to blur. For a second, she wasn't Judge Amara. She was the barefoot little girl again, standing in the dust, being called a curse by the entire village. She took a deep breath and closed the file. The world had brought her full circle. When the hearing began, the courtroom was packed. Kofi entered, older, weaker, his hair gray, his clothes worn, but his eyes still carried arrogance. He looked around, not realizing at first who sat behind the bench. But when Amara spoke, "This court is now in session," his face went pale. He stammered, "Amara." The room fell silent. She looked straight at him and replied coldly, "It's Judge Amara now." For the next 2 hours, the case unfolded. Witnesses spoke, papers were read, and evidence piled up. Every word echoed with memories. The cruelty, the humiliation, the sleepless nights. Kofi's lawyer tried to twist the story, claiming it was all misunderstanding. Amara listened quietly, taking notes. Her pen trembled slightly, but her face remained still, calm, unreadable. The girl inside her screamed, but the judge in her stayed silent. When it was time for Kofi to speak, he looked at her desperately. "I'm an old man," he pleaded. "You know me, child. You know this land belongs to me. Don't destroy what little I have left." Amara leaned forward slightly, her voice low and steady. "You destroyed what little I had when I was a child," she said softly. "You stole my dignity, my peace, my childhood. But this courtroom is not my revenge, it's my responsibility." The words hung in the air like thunder. Even the fans above seemed to stop spinning. Kofi's eyes filled with tears, but Amara's gaze never wavered. She opened the evidence file, pointed to the documents, and said, "The law is clear. You forged the deeds, deceived the villagers, and took what was never yours. You will return every acre you stole, and serve the sentence this court decides." When she struck the gavel, the courtroom erupted in murmurs. Justice had been served, not through anger, but through truth. As Kofi was led away, he turned back once, his eyes filled with something Amara had never seen before, regret. For the first time, he bowed his head and whispered, "Forgive me." Amara didn't reply. She didn't need to. Forgiveness had already lived in her silence. That evening, after everyone had left, Amara sat alone in the courtroom. The echo of her gavel still lingered. She thought about her grandmother's words. "You'll make them listen one day." And they had, not through shouting, not through revenge, but through justice. Outside, rain began to fall. Gentle, cleansing rain. She walked out into the courtyard, letting it soak her robe. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "We did it, Nana. The curse is gone." And for the first time, she felt truly free. The next morning, newspapers across the city carried her story. Judge Amara delivers landmark judgment in Ndala corruption case. But what no one knew was that for Amara, it wasn't about fame. It was closure. The girl who had once been called a curse had become a blessing for others. Weeks later, she visited the same mango tree where she once studied under candlelight. It was still there, older, taller, stronger, just like her. A few children played nearby. One little boy came running to her and said shyly, "Judge Amara, my teacher says you were born here. Is it true?" She smiled, nodded, and said, "Yes, and one day, you'll be born from this soil too, not to stay in it, but to rise above it." The boy laughed and ran off, and Amara looked at the sky one more time. The clouds parted, sunlight poured down, and she felt a peace she had never known before. Her journey had been cruel, but it was also beautiful, because she had turned her pain into purpose, her scars into strength, and her silence into justice. In the end, the world didn't need to apologize to her. It simply needed to witness her rise, and it did.